It's the decision to honor yourself. It's the decision to just do it. And just know that there's going to be people that might say whatever about you. But that's like the whole purpose of it, is to say, wait a minute, that's not who I am. I'm going to keep going. Ain't nobody out here going to stop me, you know? And that's what you tell yourself. And then you keep going, and boom, you just broke through another level. All right. Well, I gotta say, I feel pretty darn good today. I feel more relief today as in comparison to the last few years. Really, like, the whole thing about why I feel so stuck, why I feel so stressed, is because I really just have so many different conflicting things going on inside of me. I haven't always known what to say. You know, a lot of the things that I'm experiencing and that I've been experiencing have been, you know, amplifying the hatred and the rage and the anger and the insecurity inside me. So it's like it's just been, you know, one thing on top of the other that's caused me so much stress and dis-ease over these past few years. You know, I mean, really, and during my spiritual awakening, like, my entire life I've had crazy out of this world things happen to me. And, you know, I met my twin flame 13 years before we had our spiritual union. And then prior to that, I had a false twin. And prior to that, way back, dating back to my childhood, I knew other people that I had these sacred connections with. So none of it was really new. The only new thing about it was I became conscious of that, and, you know, of all my subconscious programming and everything. So anyway, back when I had my spiritual awakening, all this crazy stuff started happening to me. All my worst fears came, like, you know, all of a sudden I'm a twin flame. You know, all these revelations and insights are occurring. I'm illuminated, and then I'm completely alone. I find myself isolated. I lost everyone. I had no one to talk to. My entire life changed like that overnight, got flipped upside down and turned inside out. And, you know, my greatest fears literally began to manifest. And like I said, I found myself alone. I had no one to talk to. I had no one to share what was going on with me. And then all of a sudden, like, all of my neighbors and everyone around me, and I felt like in the entire world, no one understood what I was going through and what I now knew. So it's just from the very beginning, I've had so much stress inside of me, not knowing what to say. And then I began to explore and kind of tap into my different hobbies and interests and talents, like being an artist, being a photographer, getting back into sports and outdoor sports. So while that period of being alone and having all this pent up inside me now, all this knowledge, all this wisdom, all this fear, all this pain, all this rage, all this hate, I would have to, you know, break off. I'd have to kind of bury the more spiritual kind of teacher aspect of who I am, to then explore this or travel here and go there. And then it wasn't until just a couple years ago that I started to actually finally make connections with different people. And thank God that I'm so grateful for the people that I have connections with today, you know, especially in comparison to looking back then. The gratitude is immense. But in the same breath, it's like that's how it's supposed to be, you know. That's normal. Community is the way it's supposed to be. Connection is necessary. It's crucial. It's how we're designed to have connection and to have community. And it's necessary in order to heal, which is a huge contributing factor to my relief today. You know, I'm still uncertain. I'm still sorting my stuff out. You know, I still to this day don't always know what to say. Because, like I said, I have all these kind of conflicting things going on inside me. I'm making sure that I'm channeling my direction and my focus and my energy towards who it is that I am and who it is that I truly want to be. Someone who's nurturing, someone who is spreading wisdom and love and care and tools for others to, I just want to be the best that I can be, to give the best and get the most out of life. And that hasn't always been who I've been able to be these past few years, which has also added another layer of kind of turmoil and stress within my own self. And then, of course, that's been reflected back by people outside of me, people calling me evil, just, the list goes on. This is something that we all go through. But yet, when you're just like screaming inside to be heard, to be understood, that, you just want to organize, it just gets to be, like I mentioned in my last video, the process of returning home to yourself through your many layers of conditioning and trauma is a very messy process, believe me. But like the purpose of this video is really to say you got to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere, so let that somewhere be where you are. Like, I'm coming here to this video, this is the only thing, like, I'm thinking today because I want to continue building that momentum and making a habit and a pattern of showing up in my teaching, showing up in front of the camera and giving what I have, and offering what I have. And this whole day, like, I've been working on some art stuff and I've been doing this and I've been doing that. And I've been like in my head, like, what do I say? What do I say? What do I say? So like that's underlying while I'm doing all these other things, which has been the story of my life since my awakening. And then the energy blockages just shift from one part of my body to the other. And I had no bloody idea that I would ever be in front of the camera saying this, just kind of being able to actually understand it and spell it out, being like, I don't even know what to say because there's just so many things going on. But maybe perhaps I'm not the only one. I'm sure I'm not, I know that I'm not. Because certain levels of consciousness won't even allow you to realize that you don't know what to say, or that, because lower levels of consciousness, when you're operating from them and you haven't reached yet higher levels of consciousness, you don't even know they exist. That's the paradox of operating from the ego. The ego believes it knows. The ego knows it's right. The ego thinks that something is crazy, when in reality, operating from that logical egoic perspective every day is actually insanity. That's actually crazy. That's the prison. That's the trap. But people don't see it that way. They don't see it that way until they finally have a breakthrough. But anyway, back to what I was saying. I feel relief today. I feel good to actually be able to just come in front of the camera and say that this is where I'm at. Like I said, I'm still uncertain. I still have things to process within that I'm working on, but because I've chosen, like during the past few years when like I mentioned, that I've had to break off and kind of learn my photography skills, explore my art skills, and whatever it is that I want to do. I've created my YouTube channel and my Instagram, where I began teaching bit by bit, a little bit here and a little bit there. But throughout all of it, it's felt very fragmented, and I didn't have solid connections. I wasn't establishing connection. But now that I have, and this is for anyone who feels that knows deep down that they're called to share their story or share their wisdom or share whatever it is that they have, that they know deep down is going to help others find their way home and help others build their own confidence. The way that I've been able to reach just where I am today in actually being able to come in front of the camera and say it is by actually doing it, by actually sharing it. I created that YouTube channel. I created the other Instagram because when I had my awakening, I went into the dark night of the soul, I deleted all my social media as well. So I knew either came from, I had to create my Etsy, and then I've made like 85 sales or something like that for a couple years. But I know I had to create that, and I created my social media, and I got back on Facebook, and I started to share. And when I did that, when I chose to honor myself, when I chose to believe in myself, when I chose to uh, know that I have a purpose here and that my story matters and is impactful, and one of my greatest passions, if not the greatest passion on the planet, is helping other people. And I started to share what I have and share my truth and share my wisdom. That's when I found other people who are like minded and who could help, that all helped me in one way or another, no matter what the dynamic was, to find myself more and more. And of course, along that path that you follow a stream of synchronicities because God is everywhere. You are everywhere and in everything. It's not just on social media. It's not just in your house. It's not just in your community, not just in your church. It's not just anywhere. All of life is the classroom, and all of life is the teacher. So you'll find messages in the most unexpected places, in the most unexpected time, and signs and guidance and synchronicities from the universe in the most clever and awesome and fascinating ways when you follow that, when you choose to follow that call of your soul, and to establish your confidence, build your confidence, build and establish your self-esteem. Because what you realize from the point that you're lacking confidence and lacking self-esteem to the point that you've actually gained the confidence, it's only a decision. It's the decision to honor yourself. It's the decision to just do it. And just know that there's going to be people that might say whatever about you. They might make fun of you. They might say this about it. They might say that. And while you're dealing with those narratives within yourself, those subconscious beliefs that are false, while they're playing out and you're receiving that at the same time, sure, it'll get challenging. Sure, that's uncomfortable. But that's like the whole purpose of it, is to say, wait a minute, that's not who I am. That's the reflection of what's going on inside of me. I'm going to keep going. Ain't nobody out here going to stop me, And that's what you tell yourself. And then you keep going and boom, you just broke through another level. And you just had a quantum leap. You just leveled up. And now you're operating on another level of consciousness. A pure frequency, as opposed to a frequency that's clouded with fear, clouded with insecurity, clouded with defense mechanisms and manipulation tactics. The goal in life really is to get to the absolute purest frequency of who you are. Getting rid of the manipulation tactics and the defense mechanisms that we've developed in order to survive along our path and journey in our life. And get back to the place that knows you're innately worthy and that will shine indauntedly, regardless of everything in the world and on all the media, social media and and everywhere in the world that isn't authentic and true. Because there's so much inauthenticity and ingenuineness in the world, and even within each of us. But like the purpose of life really is to return to that place of pure wholeness and oneness through all those layers of conditioning. And how else can you get there other than take one step at a time? Other than take one step to believe in yourself at a time. And when it seems like you've had a setback or you forget what you're doing or why you're here or who you are, you rest, you recollect, you regain your bearings, and you step forward again and you keep going. So that's what I've done, and this is where I'm at. And I'm not saying that that everything's just gonna be like this and just smoothing out like that, because I'm still breaking through those layers and those barriers within myself of all those, subconscious conditionings in order to reach that place of flow and knowing and oneness within myself. But I'm still dealing with so many inauthenticities and ingenuine nature within myself that I'm just not quite there yet. But like I said, I'm so grateful. I feel relief that I'm able to actually show up and say this, and I'm looking forward to the future, this year, and just I feel more present in my body. And because I've kind of watched this pattern in my life play out for years, I have a better idea and understanding of how it's going to continue going. And I just, like I said, I feel relief. Um, and just, I'm glad to be able to be in my body, in that certainty, in that knowing, and just keep staying present with myself in order to know what it is I'm meant to show up with. So that's what you do. If you're struggling with, you don't know what to do or how to show up or what to say, ask yourself on the deepest level, get so present, and say, what is it within me? What emotion regarding what person, what fear regarding what situation is blocking me? Okay, the more you can do that and write it down and acknowledge it, the better, because we do have, to function in everyday life, and we're so accustomed to burying that deep truth, those underlying currents that, are less than desirable about what we've experienced. But those are the keys that we need to, become the greatest version of ourselves. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. So keep doing that. Keep getting real with yourself. Keep getting honest. Keep coming home. Keep turning within and asking that question. It could be a lot of layers, it could be a lot of conditioning. Just get real, speak it out loud, stand in front of the mirror, write it down. The more that you can release that energy from your body, when we speak words, that's energy. That's forming energy that leaves our body. And sitting here right now making this video, about halfway through, I started getting really tense, That's what I wanted to touch on, and that might be why I started getting tense. Because I had to bury everything inside me over the past several years since my awakening, when everything, and everything started to manifest as blockages in my body, and still to this day, like I said, my body's tense when I'm sitting here talking. Because I've had to shut down and kind of bury all that, especially when I didn't have anyone that saw me or anyone to talk to at all, it created so much stress and anxiety inside of me, like debilitating, to the point where when I finally did create my YouTube and I started teaching on social media, and even up until this point, to this very day, you can tell that I've carried a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety in my body. You can hear it in my voice. It has taken control over me to the point where I haven't been able to consciously choose how I show up, how the turn of my voice is, how I direct what it is that I'm saying. I mean, I sort of have, but it's been a struggle because it felt like I'm fighting against that current inside of me that's kind of full of tension and anxiety and everything. It's like something that I told someone, something that and also, first let me say this. Also, I have such a huge heart, and when I've experienced love, it feels like there's blockages in my body. I'm not in a flow state in my body. So I get really I get really emotional. I can cry really easily when it comes to love. And it's to the point where it's out of balance. Like, I'm not ashamed to cry, but I know that I'm not allowing that that flow cannot properly, that love cannot properly flow yet. So, gosh, what was I saying? I guess just, right, like showing up I haven't been able to be conscious always in how I've shown up, because I'm fighting against those inner currents, but the only thing is, and of course that's caused extra stress on me, is thinking like, well, I'm not exuding a beautiful energy. I'm not exuding a loving energy. I'm not exuding a nurturing energy, because I'm battling all these inner demons. and all this fear and all this stress and all this anxiety. But the way that I've been able to smoothen out what I have and the way that I've been able to reach where I am today is actually showing up. Even when I was like that, even when I was stuck, even when I was feeling stagnant, even when I was full of fear or anxiety. That's what I wanted to say. I've had this vision where I'm just surrounded by pure, loving, conscious beings that just put their hands on my body. And the only thing that I can experience it as is I would just like scream. I would just cry and scream from the depths of my being and just release all that tension, all that fear, all that anger, all that hate. And let my love flow. That's what I want more than anything. And that's my responsibility to make sure that it happens, as is every person's. Because what we have inside will manifest outside. The way to alchemize darkness is to not mirror it when it appears before you. So when someone is attacking you, it is our great responsibility to be able to rise into higher levels of consciousness and not need to fight back. And for me personally, it's been so much from so many different people and coming from so many different angles. As I've, forgotten who I am and then remembered who I am and forgotten my divinity and then remembered my power, it's just been a massive roller coaster ride for me. But I know that things are working in divine timing. Everything is unfolding perfectly. And in this moment, in saying that and in knowing that, I have no fear. I have no uncertainty in that. I don't know how it will play out, but I have full faith. And every day, the more real that I get with myself, the more honest that I get with the more authentically true that I become, the more brutally honest I become with myself, the more authentic I can actually be, the more I can be in my body, the more I can show up in my truth, and the more that I can then merge and integrate all the different aspects of myself, the artist, the photographer, the teacher, the goofball, the funny person, the loving person, just all of me can just be more home as I accept myself more in my truth and show up in that loving authenticity. So that is my prayer for you.